Okay, ready to dive deep? Today, it's the Risala on Hijra. Sounds a little intimidating, right?
Yeah, it's this letter written way back, but it's asking questions that are still, like, totally relevant today.
Exactly. It's all about figuring out when it's okay to just leave, and when do you got to stay and fight for what you believe in.
And what's so interesting is this letter, it wasn't written by just anyone.
Right.
It was Mehmed Tevfik Azabagić. He was, like, the top religious leader for Bosnian Muslims back in the late 1800s.
Wow. So what was going on back then?
Okay, so picture this. You're a Bosnian Muslim, right?
Okay.
And suddenly, boom, your homeland is part of this huge empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Whoa.
New government, new rules, and get this, they're not even Muslim.
I can see how that would be a pretty big deal.
Huge EE deal. I mean, tons of people felt like they had to get out, like it was their religious duty to emigrate, to go somewhere, where Islam was the main religion.
Yeah, makes sense. Like finding a place where you fit in.
Right, exactly. But Azabagić, he had a whole different take on things. He wrote this Risala. Think of it like a letter or a guide to explain why he thought staying put was the better option.
Wow. So he's going against what everyone else is saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was his reasoning? Why stay when everyone else is heading out?
All right, so to get his argument, we got to talk about these two big ideas in Islam. Dar al-Harb, meaning abode of war, and Dar al-Islam, which is abode of Islam.
Okay, those sound pretty serious.
Yeah, so basically Dar al-Harb is like a place where Muslims might be persecuted, they don't feel safe because of their religion.
Yeah.
And Dar al-Islam, that's like a safe haven, they can practice their faith freely.
So traditionally, Muslims were supposed to move from a dangerous place, like a Dar al-Harb, to a safer Dar al-Islam.
Right. But Azabagić is like, hold on, just because a place is ruled by non-Muslims, it doesn't automatically mean it's a Dar al-Harb.
Yeah.
The real question is, can Bosnian Muslims still practice their faith freely under this new empire?
Okay.
And he thought they could.
So he's like challenging the status quo, what everyone else thinks is the right thing to do. A little bit of a rebel, huh?
He was definitely bold. He even argued that the Prophet Muhammad's own migration, the Hijra, was different. Back then, Islam was brand new and facing some serious threats. It was about survival. But in Bosnia, Azabagić, he saw things differently.
Right, because the Austro-Hungarians weren't exactly trying to wipe out Islam, were they?
Not at all. They were actually trying to, integrate Bosnian Muslims into society, but still respect their freedom of religion.
Gotcha.
Azabagić, he saw this as a chance for Bosnian Muslims to, thrive in their own homeland. He thought staying put would actually help them keep their culture, their identity.
So he's not just saying stay because it's religiously okay. He's saying stay because you can actually make things better here.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. But I bet not everyone was thrilled with his ideas.
You're right about that. Some people thought he was getting a little too cozy with the new rulers, But Azabagić, he was really convinced that staying was the right thing to do for both religious and practical reasons.
And it sounds like he was a pretty brave guy, standing up for what he believed in, even when it wasn't popular.
Absolutely. And his Risala on Hijra, it's this really important piece of writing that helps us understand the tough choices Bosnian Muslims had to make during a time of massive change.
It also kind of shows that the toughest decisions, they aren't always so black and white, right? There's lots of gray areas.
Yeah.
We got to figure out what feels right, based on our own values, our own beliefs.
Exactly. And Azabagić, he reminds us that sometimes staying put and working for positive change, it can be just as powerful as, packing up and finding a new home.
Okay, so what else did Azabagić have to say? What were some of his other reasons for staying in Bosnia?
Well, he had some pretty interesting ideas about why people felt so pulled to leave. And it wasn't just about religion, There were some real practical concerns that people had. And Azabagić, he got that. Bosnia, it was going through this total, transformation, right?
Yeah.
New government, new laws, everything's new.
Right.
And back then, news didn't exactly travel at the speed of light like it does now. So people were freaking out about things like, what's going to happen to their land?
Yeah.
Can I still get a job? What about the army?
Oh, wow.
Am I going to be forced to join? All of this uncertainty.
Yeah, it'd be pretty unsettling.
Right.
It's like all the rules just changed overnight.
Exactly. So some people, they felt like, okay, gotta emigrate, go somewhere like Turkey,
Okay.
A place that was still under Muslim rule, somewhere that felt familiar, safe.
Yeah.
A way to hold on to that,
Makes sense. So it's like this push and pull. Push away from all the change and uncertainty in Bosnia and pull towards something familiar.
Exactly. But Azabagić, he saw things differently. Even though he understood the fear, he saw like a different kind of opportunity.
Oh, okay.
He thought that Bosnian Muslims could actually use this situation to build something new, something even stronger.
So instead of running from the challenge, like, face it head on.
Exactly. He believed they could be true to their faith, their Islamic faith, but also be loyal citizens of Bosnia, even under a non-Muslim government. It was a pretty progressive idea, especially back then.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's like he was saying, hey, you don't have to choose between your faith and your home. Like, you can have both.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing that was kind of a tough sell for some people.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Remember, this is the 1800s. People, they're really connected to their traditions, their ways of life. Change is scary.
Yeah.
But Azabagić, he kept coming back to this idea of like inner transformation.
Inner transformation. Okay, what's that? Was he talking about like meditation or something?
No, well, kind of. He was talking about this idea that true Hijra, true migration, it's not just about, packing your bags and going somewhere else. It's about a journey of the heart.
Oh, okay. So like changing the way you think, the way you act, the way you see the world.
Exactly. Azabagić, he believed that if Bosnian Muslims, if they focused on strengthening their faith, becoming the best versions of themselves, they could overcome any challenge no matter where they were.
That's a pretty powerful message. It's like he was saying, you can create your own like inner sanctuary, your own Dar al-Islam right here, right now.
Yeah. And that idea, I mean, it's still so relevant today. We all face challenges, right? We all have to adapt to change. And sometimes, like, the bravest thing you can do is to just stay put, work on yourself, become a better person.
Yeah. It's like that saying, bloom where you're planted.
It is. Azabagić, he was all about, like, finding that strength and resilience within yourself, within your community. He thought that Bosnian Muslims, they could use their faith as this source of, inner strength. And it didn't matter what challenges they faced.
Wow, so this guy was a real visionary. So for our 7th grader who might be listening and thinking, okay, cool story, but what does this have to do with me? I mean, it's a pretty different world now than it was back then.
True, it is a different world. But a lot of the stuff that Azabagić was thinking about, the questions he was asking, I mean, they're still relevant today. Like, think about it. People are still migrating, leaving their homes for all kinds of reasons: war, poverty, looking for a better life.
And even if we're not, like, physically migrating, we're all dealing with constant change. I mean, technology is changing, the world is changing, and sometimes it just feels like everything's moving so fast.
Exactly. And that's why I think Azabagić's message is so important. He reminds us that change, it's inevitable. We can't control everything that happens around us, but we can control how we react to it. We can choose to be fearful and run away, or we can choose to be brave and find ways to, like, adapt and thrive.
And he's also saying that true strength, it comes from within. Like, it's about building that resilience, that sense of purpose, that faith that helps you, like, navigate all the ups and downs of life.
Absolutely. And Azabagić's story, it isn't just about religion or history or any of that. It's about something way bigger.
Yeah, Azabagić was really ahead of his time, tackling these big ideas about identity and belonging. What it means to be a global citizen.
Totally. And it's not like he was just talking about this stuff, in a vacuum. He was really engaging with his community, trying to understand their fears, their hopes.
Right. So he wasn't just preaching from some, like, ivory tower. He was actually listening to people, having real conversations. That's pretty cool.
It is. And I think it reminds us that even when you disagree with people, when you're facing tough challenges, it's so important to just, like, talk to each other.
Right.
Listen to different perspectives. Try to find some common ground.
Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together, right? I mean, we all want to live in a world where everyone feels safe and respected.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of respect, Azabagić was, like, a seriously smart guy. He loved books, collected them, even gave lectures on some of the most, like, complicated religious texts.
Wow, a real bookworm. I bet his library was incredible.
I know, right? He was even known for, like, translating and explaining difficult poetry to his son. So he wasn't just this religious leader, He was a teacher, a mentor.
It's amazing how one person can have such a big impact, not just on their own community, but, like, for generations to come.
It really is. And even today, scholars are still studying Azabagić's Risala, trying to understand his ideas and how they, like, shaped history.
So for our 7th grader out there who might be thinking, okay, this is an interesting story, but what does it have to do with me? What's the big takeaway here?
I think Azabagić's story teaches us that, like, we all have a choice. We can let our circumstances define us, or we can define ourselves.
He chose to stay and, like, build something positive, even when it would have been way easier to just walk away.
Exactly. And that's such a powerful lesson no matter what challenges you're facing. Bullying at school, family problems, or even just feeling like you don't belong. Azabagić reminds us that we all have the power to create change, both in our own lives and in the world around us.
And that it's okay to be different, to think differently, to stand up for what you believe in, even when it's hard.
Yeah. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is just stay true to yourself, your values, even when everyone else is doing something different.
So as we wrap on this deep dive into the Risala on Hijra, is there one question you want to leave our listener with? Something to think about, maybe even talk about with friends or family?
Okay, here's a thought. If you were Azabagić, right, facing a situation where you had to choose between leaving your home or staying and trying to make things better, what would you do? What are the things you would consider when making that decision?
That's a tough one. But it's definitely worth thinking about. I mean, ultimately, we all have to figure out what feels right for us based on our values, our beliefs, and our experiences.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, right? There's no one right answer. It's about making those choices, being true to yourself, and using your voice to make the world a better place.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Mehmed Tevfik Azabagić's Risala on Hijra. It's a really fascinating look at faith, identity, and the power of one person to make a real difference.
Thanks for having me.
And to all our listeners, till next time, keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the world around you.